Good evening, and welcome to Noble TV. We are the Chicago chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I'm John Franklin, and thank you for tuning in. Today our guest is Barbara West, the Chicago Police Department's Chief of the Bureau of Support Services. Now, her command has spearheaded the current recruitment drive that has been ongoing since late last year for qualified applicants for this year's CPD eligibility exam, which will be administered this coming April. But before our conversation with Chief West begins, I want to remind you that you can watch us here at CAN-TV 21 or by way of the internet at cantv.org/hotline. Now, this is a live interactive show, and you are welcome to call in with your questions or comments at 312-738-1060. We'll be taking some comments shortly. Chief West, welcome back again.
Hi, thank you, John.
And it's great to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Now, this latest recruitment drive has been talked about in all kinds of social media, news programs, print media. I've even seen the digital advertising boards when I've driven along Chicago's expressways. I mean, I have to say, you guys have done a great job of getting the word out. And I commend you and the department for using every public media outlet available in order to spread the message that the city needs police officers. But it's become quite a talked about subject nationwide, this subject of qualified applicants, hasn't it?
Sure, that's a national thing that's being discussed all over the country.
Now, are some regions of the country experiencing a harsher shortage of applicant pools than others? And what's being done among the various police agencies to counteract this?
Well, John, I actually just, I know that most departments are having challenges with seeking qualified applicants, but I'm just going to talk about what we're kind of doing. So
Okay,
like you said,
great.
you mentioned about the social media aspect of reaching our candidates where they are. Also with doing some grassroots things, we're actually going to visit the churches. We're working with our interfaith. We're working with our aldermanic and elected officials to do their community meetings, to come out to those events. And we're also doing open houses. The next one is scheduled for the 28th of January 2017 at the Police Academy. It's going to be from 10 to 2. It's on a Saturday, and then we're going to showcase pretty much everything, some things about the Chicago Police Department, and get to see some highlights. Talk to some recruits. You get to see some demonstrations. Speak with command staff. So those are some of the things we're doing here in Chicago to increase our recruitment efforts.
That's a lot. Now, how many of these open houses is the department sponsoring? I know they've had a few of them already, right?
Sure, we had one just last weekend on January the 14th, and we also did an open house at By the Hand Club, which is an organization on the west side of Chicago. We partnered with one of our elected officials in the midst and actually held that event there, and that was pretty successful. And again, we've done these open houses all over the city. We did an event last weekend at WVON, which was last Saturday, and so we had a great big turnout with that open house that we did.
Now, where do most of the open houses occur? Most of them occur at the Academy, correct?
Well, yeah, the actual primary open houses occur at the Academy, but we've done others that are all throughout the city. So we've been, like I said, partnering with faith-based, partnering with aldermanic officials, partnering with other community-based organizations to have open houses at those locations. We invite our ambassadors, who are district officers, who speak at these engagements. We work with command staff and get those out to those community events too. So we've been doing a lot of recruitment in terms of ground roots as well as that social media aspect of it.
Now, yes, we've had some other command staff here, and they all were talking about the open houses and bringing the public in and introducing them to the various areas of, what do you want to call that, specialization within the Chicago Police Department. SWAT, K-9, animal crime investigations, all
Your
kind
old
of things.
place that you manage, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Now, would you please explain to our audience about the demographics by race of the city of Chicago and how that matches up with the current ethnic demographics on the Chicago Police Department?
Sure. So currently the demographics of the city is kind of like this: is about 33% black, 32% white, and about 29% Hispanic and 8% Asian. As far as our demographics go, there's only about 23% that are black on the job, about 22% is Hispanic, and then 48% I believe is white. So, and a 3% Asian. So we have a different variation in terms of being reflective of the city, and that's why we're out here really recruiting and campaigning so hard to bring about diversity on our police department.
Now, how is this latest recruitment drive how's it been initiated and how's it been managed by the police department so far?
Sure. So, as far as the latest recruitment drive, it appears that our numbers in terms of the minority population is actually applying for the test. It's about the same as it was last time, which is 71%. We hadn't seen that in a long time, and actually, it's kind of best practice for the nation. 71% of our applicant pool that applied for the exam were minority.
Wow, that's pretty good. Those are impressive numbers, actually. Now, up until now, has the city and the department achieved its goal regarding the upcoming exam of greater participation in numbers of minorities? What are you seeing so far in the numbers that are coming in so far?
Well, like I just said, on par in terms of the percentages of minority that have applied to take this exam, so 71%. We're seeing about the same as we did for our last exam. Again, you know that we just gave an exam last year in 2016, so we're giving another one April the 1st of 2017.
Okay. Now, I can honestly say I have a good number of college students who are very interested in becoming Chicago police officers. Now, it would seem your outreach goals utilizing social media, colleges, universities have gone quite well. What are you hearing about general interest in the new eligibility exam among adults, young adults in general? Just young adults in general.
Well, you know, the young people I actually speak with, you know, when they're out at these recruitment events, they're very interested in profession, right? Because they consider it to be a profession. Many of them have had experience in criminal justice, so they're going to get their degrees in criminal justice or public administration. So this is something that they feel like they can be a part of this change. And that's our campaign, be the part of the change that you want to see. And I see a lot of veterans. I'm getting a lot of interest from veterans who are coming back from their, being enlisted for some time. They're looking for professions when they come back. So we're looking for veterans, and they're coming to apply for this exam as well. But the college kids are definitely coming.
Now, I've noticed even students I've had, say, a year ago are now calling me, asking me, hey, professor, I'm hearing that the city's hiring. What do I do? Where do I go?
Sure. Okay, well, there's a couple places you can go, but where you can go really is go to CPD, chicagopolice.org, and you can look on the page and it'll say Be the Change. And it talks about, you know, the recruitment campaign. It talks about where do you go to apply. It gives you some of the frequently asked questions that a lot of people who are applying for the position have. It tells you it's only taking 20 minutes to apply for the exam, and there's actually no cost this time for the exam. We eliminate the fee. So that's one of the barriers that we actually took away from, a cost associated with this exam.
Now let's hit on that, because not only did you take away the fees, you changed a few things in this exam. What else did you change?
Sure. So, when we try to demystify it, right? So, we talk about on this webpage that I was referring to, chicagopolice.org, we actually put up there what the background investigation would actually look like, right? So it tells you each step that you would go through. So it's not a mystery. You're not looking like, well, what's going to be the next phase of this process and I'm going through. So that was something else that we did. We took away that barrier at demystifying the actual processing of what you go through as a candidate trying to become a Chicago police officer.
Now, I want to point out to our viewers, you also change, I think this happened with the last exam, you change the age in which they can take the test. They can take the test at 18 years of age
Sure,
now.
absolutely. You have to be age 18 by April the 30th of 2017. They will be 21 when they hire, but they can actually take it at the age of 18. So we're getting a lot of, CPS graduates who are actually applying for the exam.
That is great. Well, Chief West, it looks like we have a caller,
okay.
so let's hear what they have to say. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I was calling to find out if I'm on the current eligibility list, should I be signing up to take the next exam? My lottery number is like 8,700.
That's a good question.
That's a great question, actually, John. So just be aware that that list is being currently processed. But again, I always, kind of tell people, take the next exam. Reason being because you don't know what happens in life that you may not be able to report for some part of the processing that happens. We've had individuals to break a leg or break a toe, and they weren't able to participate in the run when they were called. We had someone deployed on military, so they weren't able to come and be processed. So, I always advise people to take their next exam to always ensure that you're on a list. And so, again, you should be getting called pretty soon, but I would suggest that you do take the next exam.
Thank you, caller. Looks like we have another one. Hello, good evening.
Hi, thank you for having me on. My question is, I've just reached the age to be able to take this test. What is the probability and likelihood if I don't pass this one that they'll have another one within the next 2 to 3 years?
Oh, okay.
That's a great question. Again, you're saying that you're just reaching the age of 18, so you'll be kept and maintained as part of that. You know, you'll be continue to be processed until you reach the age of 21. So, the probability of giving another exam, you know, the superintendent said that he wants more frequent exams for the Chicago Police Department, as well as entry and promotional. So he has confirmed that he wants to do that continuously.
Thank you, caller. Now, what kind of assistance, Chief West, is the city also offering potential applicants to further ensure that they're prepared to take this exam?
Sure. So, you know, we partner with the Chicago Workforce Development Centers all throughout the city. There's a list again on chicagopolice.org. So once you apply for the exam, you get your testing guide. If you're having some challenges or difficulty with pieces of the exam, you can actually go to the Workforce Development Centers and actually, you know, work with them to get that information. We're also partnering with some of our police organizations, as far as Noble, you know, to help and assist people who are being guided through this test. They may have a question or two and not understand what the question is asking. So we do have partnerships that we're working with.
Now, is our department seeing a lot of lateral movement with applicants coming over here from other agencies? I know there's a lot of movement of lateral applicants. I see a lot of ads online for lateral transfers.
Sure.
Officers able to transfer from one department to another. And specifically, are you seeing a number of, say, sheriff's deputies or other people currently working in law enforcement field or other agencies signing up to take the test in order to become Chicago police officers?
I actually do it. And when I was at the recruitment event on Saturday, I bumped into some county sheriffs who were interested in coming from county to work with the Chicago Police Department. I've also seen some outside agencies surrounding suburbs who are coming to make the lateral transfer to come over to the Chicago Police Department. And the subject sense of like the traditional lateral we do not have, because they do participate in the full academy, but I see that they're coming from one law enforcement agency to come to another. There's a gentleman I know that's coming from Georgia who's coming to apply for the Chicago Police Department.
Now, I understand we have a very rigid policy. They have to come, they have to take the test, they have to pass background, they go into the academy, they have to take the same training any recruit does.
Yes.
And then they get into the field training aspect with an FTO. Are we ever planning on shortening that for people who are already trained or certified or have experience as law enforcement officers? Because I know a lot of agencies have like an abbreviated program for officers coming in who are already trained.
Right, and at this time we are not, but there has been research done to actually figure out if there is a potential to create a lateral movement program. I've seen states like California, they do it. Some other states don't do it, but we've looked at and considered what would be our lateral transfer.
Okay.
And you know, of course, we have to work within our CBAs to
Right.
negotiate those terms as
Right.
well, and also with our
Unions.
Unions, yes.
Looks like we have another caller, Chief West, so let's take it. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Chief Franklin and Chief West.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for taking my call. The question is regarding Chicago's police department tattoo policies for hires.
We currently don't have a tattoo policy for hires. Not in the city of Chicago, not the Chicago Police Department. We do not have one.
Okay. Looks like we have another caller. Hello, good evening.
Yes, how y'all guys doing? And first of all, thanks for taking the call. I got a great idea what maybe some things that possibly could help with CPD. Why don't we bring back some of the retired policemen through only the Chicago Police Department? Put them in the academy. Let them start teaching. Maybe go along with some of the old patrol going out and you see, you know, they could see things as being done. It's nothing wrong with old school. Let me tell you, old school was much better than new school right now. I mean, look at Commander Tolliver. Look at Jose and all of them. I mean, they disband gang crime and things of that nature. We need help. So why not bring some of the old back? Listen, let me get out the air so I can hear your response, and thanks for taking the call.
Your comment. And actually, there's a lot of truth in what you say. As Chief West can probably tell you, and as I know, because even though I am no longer an active police officer, I still stop by the academy, I still work out at the academy, and I still speak to many of the instructors there. I know they do have at least a couple of instructors there who are retired police officers who do currently teach at the academy, teaching the recruits. So it's not a bad idea. You definitely can use some experience in there.
Yeah, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, quite wise words. Now, has retention of our officers here in Chicago, in the Chicago Police Department, been a problem like it has been in numerous other agencies? Some agencies have a hard time retaining their officers. A lot of movement goes around due to salary, which we know in Chicago's not bad. We pay one of the top salaries in the country, actually. I think we have a very good salary right now for recruits. But I see a lot, when I was a chief out in the suburbs, I saw a lot of lateral movement based on salary and other benefit issues. So are we seeing a lot of people, or any significant numbers of people leaving Chicago Police to go to some other agencies? Other than maybe, some do go to FBI and
Yes.
DEA, that
So
sort
I
of thing.
I see a few officers leave to go to some of the federal, bureaus, FBI, DEA, et cetera. But as far as, our salary goes, so we're starting with $48,000, over $48,000. And after, 18 months, we're making $72,000 as
Not
a
bad
new
money
hire.
at all.
That's not bad money.
No.
Of course, we also have tuition reimbursement. So if you want to go finish your degree,
Right.
if you haven't finished it, you can go get another degree, a second degree, and we also have medical, dental, and also a pension plan.
Sure.
So when you think about all those things that copulate to make a career, favorable, I think we don't have the problem with the transfer to the other agencies.
And I can honestly tell you, as a retired police officer, I got my master's degree as a sergeant, working for the city of Chicago, which the city paid about
Yes.
95% of my expenses getting my master's degree. So if you're looking to better yourself, get into the law enforcement field, advance yourself career-wise and even educationally, it's a great move. I know plenty of officers that have masters, doctorates, some have law degrees, all paid for through the tuition reimbursement program. So it's definitely something to look at. I know when I was a chief in the suburbs, that was something we couldn't offer
Yes.
a lot of applicants and recruits, and it's a benefit that a lot of agencies still don't offer today.
And again, I see, like you said, many people go back to get that second or third degree,
Sure.
doctors, etc.
It doesn't help to prepare for your retirement by
Yes.
having some an ED or PhD behind
Yes.
you. I can tell you that. Now, it's well known that the mayor and the superintendent have publicly stated they intend to hire 1,000 police officers. Can this goal realistically be met, Chief West? And if so, how?
So absolutely. So, the one thing we do have that's going right now, so we have a list that we're processing.
Okay.
It's from the 2016 exam. And so now we're out here recruiting and campaigning again to do another test for the 2017 exam. So off those two lists, I believe we can reach our goal of hiring the additional, 970 officers that we see. And that includes, dealing with attrition and promotion.
That's something I was going to bring up next.
and also bringing into the fact that we are, at the end of 2017, want to have 250 additional officers, and the end of 2018, wanting to have an additional 250 officers. So it's aggressive, but it can be done.
How many recruit training classes can the police academy actually hold, realistically?
Right. So, and I talk with the deputy chief of training academy all the time, and we talk about that, how training has to be differently done because of capacity issues,
Right.
of course. So, traditionally we would always train on the second watch. Well, we have to get out of that mindset and use the space. We have to look at space. So we are thinking about, training on the third watch. We've also developed partnerships with the city colleges in terms of using some of their facilities. Also partnerships with other colleges using some of their facilities. And we're using the headquarters building, the multi-purpose room and the training room for training. So, we have to look at all the spaces and try to develop the schedule around that in terms of that building the capacity for the training.
So I assume starting sometime next year, when this really starts moving, well, later this year, excuse me,
Later this year.
you'll be having multiple shifts.
Yes, and we did that before.
Yeah, you're right.
We've had second watch and third watch
Right.
training. When I went through the academy, we had 2 shifts. At that point, it was a hiring surge again. Back in the 90s,
Sure.
and they did it in the 80s. So
When I
we've
got
used the
hired in
same
82,
we've
yeah.
used the same academy, and we just train differently, not the 9 to 5 schedule that normally
Right.
we
The
would
straight
have.
days,
The
weekends
straight days,
off.
weekends off.
Now, let's talk about building a new academy, because that has been talked about through City Hall and through the superintendent. How's that looking? Is it just now getting off the ground? But is it realistically they're going to build one in the next 2 or 3 years?
So the mayor and the superintendent, the mayor has committed to giving us a new academy. The superintendent is, of course, going along. This is a great plan for CPD, And so we've been looking at sites, what this academy is going to look like. Having classroom, but yet scenario-based rooms too, so we can do scenario training. That's what we really want to have. Having a gun range, they're having,
we have a range at the other one,
yes,
but it's
right. But
it's,
having a gun range,
yeah.
having an outdoor range, they're having a driving facility. So we're looking at more like a campus style
Sure.
versus what we currently have.
Is it too late to get in a bid for a swimming pool?
No, it's never too late. But that is something to consider too, because we use another facility for our swimming. So we're going out sightseeing to view other sites and to see how those training academies are actually built and what they have and what they are training for. And we're trying to duplicate some of that, plus make what our needs are fit this place.
Because I remember the Marine unit used to train over near North Korea Metro because they still have the pool over
Yes.
there. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the Department of Justice recently released report on the CPD. I know it's fully comprehensive. They examined the department from top to bottom. Let's just say it's not very positive. Do you think this report is going to adversely affect our drive to get the applicants we need to fill the positions we need within the department?
I think people who make a choice to come into this career, they want to serve. They have a spirit of public service. So that's really the deal with people who come on this job, regardless of the reports that are out there, etc. But as you know, the mayor and the superintendent are all for reform. In fact, we already began working on many of the things in 2016. We had started with, doing our force mitigation, de-escalation training, which was scenario-based. We had experts come in from LA to take a look at it. We worked with our mental health community, NAMI, and they actually viewed it, and they think it's one of the best things that they've seen in a long time. We've also talked about, revitalizing our FTO program as far as the training goes with those individuals who are becoming FTOs, incentivizing what they do, making them more accountable in terms of what they train, these PPOs. And so we've begun to do many of the things prior to this report even coming out. So we have already had a plan in place to deal with some of the training things that we see that we can actually do better. Because again, training is different for a different group of people. Everybody needs, everyone needs different kind of training based upon their age. Younger people need interactive training.
Most definitely.
When I was in school, we sat up in a chair and we just watched and were lectured to. Training is different. We need to be more scenario based.
Well, not only that, it's harder to hold the interests of young people. I can tell you as a college professor, it's difficult. I know I have to tell many of my students, phones down, eyes up, It's difficult to hold these young people's attention, and it's...
They multitask all the time.
and you've got to really be innovative to reel them in and keep them hooked for the day.
Sure.
Now, what are they telling the recruits that are already in the academy? I mean, I'm sure a lot of them have some questions about this report. What are the instructors saying to these recruits?
Sure. Well, as we were all instructed to, we've been going to roll calls, right? Discussing the report, what it says, and I would tell anybody it's a public report to take a look at it, for themselves and read it. It goes on to certain things. It talks about training. It talks about accountability. It talks about use of force.
And
talks about
de-escalation
training, and those are the things that we're already working on. Like I said, we've already put together a plan. We had to make some adjustments, of course, when this report came out. We have to tweak some of that strategic plan, but the plan is kind of already being laid down and in place.
And it also talked about discipline as well.
Sure.
So we know that we have things to work on, but we're going to move forward.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to work out quite well.
Yeah.
You've got 2 more weeks. For those of you in the viewing audience,
absolutely.
you have 2 more weeks to sign up. Applications will be cut off as of January 31st. And the test is given when? April?
The test is going to be April the 1st or 2nd. Depends on which day you get notified to attend. So it's April 1st and the 2nd. And the final cutoff is January 31st at midnight, 11:59.
11:59 and 58 seconds.
And 59 seconds. So the cutoff is, and again, it takes 20 minutes to go on and apply, and it's free this time.
How are your recruits doing in the academy with regard to the power test? I know there's been some talk about, Our young people aren't in shape like they used to be, but you know, when I go there, I see them lifting, I see them running, I see them doing everything.
Well, in order for them to actually go to the academy, they have to take the power exam, so they can pass it already. But again, you know, you have to keep yourself in shape throughout
Most
the academy.
definitely.
You know, and as part of, you know, people who are talking about applying right now, you can prepare for that test right now. That's the only part you can study for, right?
Right.
So you can study for that part right now by practicing your sit-ups, by practicing your reach, by practicing the run, you know, by practicing the lift, by practicing those things. So you can prepare for that part of the exam prior to you even getting registered for this test.
You know, I had a student call me before the semester ended, and he called me about 10 days before his power test.
Yeah.
He said, Professor Franklin, I'm nervous about the power test. I said, well, you've been working out, right? He said, well, I said, you haven't been working out? But he's a thin guy.
Sure.
And I actually showed him where the gym was in the
Yes.
college, and I made him run for a week
Yes.
before he went there, and he did pass.
And he did. And you know, if anyone has questions about what the power test actually looks like, they can go onto the chicagopolice.org website. There is a videotape of what the power test is. It gives you a link to a booklet that you can pull down and print out and read or review, and it tells you what is expected for your age and your sex.
Now, I know you all have started a lot of new, what do you want to call that, de-escalation training, and I
Yes.
know that, I can't think of the sergeant's name, but anyway, I know that you have someone.
Snelling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Snelling is teaching it in
Yes.
evenings, I believe. How's that going?
I
And
think
he's an excellent instructor, by the
Oh,
way, to
absolutely.
teach that course.
Absolutely. So that training started back in September 2016. And I've attended the session when they were showcasing in front of the subject matter experts. I got a chance to see it for myself. It was some of the best training that I had seen in a very long time. It helped you dealing with the process of maybe going into a situation where you're dealing with someone who's elevated due to being high, intoxicated, or dealing with mental illness. And so it teaches you those skills, and it actually breaks down what you should be doing and where you should be doing it at. And you see this in a scenario. You participate in the scenario. So I think it's some of the greatest training I've seen in a while.
I would second that because I can remember many times as a policeman I had gone on scenes where I wish we'd had training to bring the level of tension or
Sure.
anger down
Sure.
rather than let it boil over.
Yes.
And I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that you guys are doing this.
Yes.
And I think it's going to pay off in dividends for the department, for the officers. Because, I mean, talking frankly here, we know that there's some reticence on officers to be as aggressive or to be as outgoing on the street as they used to be. And we all know that. I mean, we can't escape from what were they calling it, the Ferguson effect. But we do know that we do need officers out there. We do need them to be somewhat aggressive. We do need them to go out there and be polite, be professional, but yet go out there and fight crime. This is what we need officers to do, which is what every law enforcement professional's job is, and their main function.
Well, I think about talking about something that just changed, and that we're talking about, you know, for the first time, we put our use of force policy out there for public comment, right? And that's something we had never done. I think we have to engage our community and getting some of the response.
Sure.
When they review our policy, they can actually see, well, we don't like this, or we do like this, or why are you putting that in there? So this is the first time we actually used our use of force training and put it out there for public comment. So I think we're headed definitely in the right direction.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely in the right direction.
Well, listen, Chief West, it's
Yeah.
been a pleasure having you here
Always.
again. Thank you as
a pleasure.
always.
Always a pleasure.
To our viewers,
Yes.
I want to thank you for tuning in.
Okay.
Remember that Noble is the conscience of law enforcement. We're being committed to justice by action. Remember, if you want to see the change, you have to be the change, which means you have to sign up and take the eligibility exam, which is coming up in April. You have 2 more weeks to do it, so please do so. You can find out all the details pertaining to the exam by visiting the CPD official website, www.chicagopolice.org. Thank you to our viewers and callers for joining us. And to our audience, the best way to stay in contact with Noble is by going to our website, noblechicago.org, or like us on Facebook at Noble Chicago Metro Chapter. For Noble TV, this is John Franklin. Thanks for viewing.